Hey guys, it's your buddy Luke, and I'm here to break down my guitar rig a little bit. So I've had a bunch of questions on what I'm running, so here is that exactly. Let's start with the guitars. So generally speaking, I use Gibson Les Paul custom guitars because that's the guitar that I wanted to use when I was 12 years old, and life's about fulfilling your 12-year-old dreams. This is more or less my main one. It's a 1975 Les Paul Custom. It's got a number of nicks and bruises and cracks from its short but tumultuous time with me. I have a DiMarzio Super Distortion bridge pickup because Ace Frehley forever, baby. I actually have the tone knob removed from the circuit because I don't know anyone that's ever touched their tone knob in their life. Basically, I stick to the bridge pickup. I wrap my strings around the bridge post. I'm not sure what this thing is called. The end thing, as opposed to going straight through them and over the saddles. I break less strings, and I like making lots of noise. That's a general breakdown of my guitar situation. I have a lovely black one here that I also love very much, and lately I've been using for open tunings my 335 over here, and those are the main three that I've been using, as well as my plexiglass Dan Armstrong guitar for maximum clear power. Most often we are playing E flat standard, so that's standard tuning half step down. That's like 90% of all of our songs. I use 11 gauge strings for those interested, and I use kind of just medium picks because harder picks I just knock the guitar out of tune way too quickly. From there, I have my trusty curly cord, back to a Marshall Super Lead amplifier, 100 watt, and I bridge the channels. I go into the ultra bright channel and bridge it over to the normal channel, and then I just kind of use those two volume knobs to kind of adjust how much of what I want, and I keep them both around 2 or 3. In terms of the equalization, I keep it around 5 or 6, back off the presence a little bit depending on which Super Lead amp I'm using. I've got a few of them, and they all kind of sound different, strangely enough. Generally speaking, I run into a Marshall 8x10 cabinet, 8 10-inch speakers. Today I've got my other cabinet, though. This is an old Vox Super Beetle cabinet. I did pretty much everything for higher power on this rig right here. It's got 4 12-inch speakers. I believe they're Eminence Wizards, and it's a strange little cab because it used to be open back and we closed it, so it's got an interesting sound. It doesn't have a whole lot of depth to it, so it's a very kind of mid-rangey cab. It doesn't have a whole lot of bass response, which I actually really like. The head actually is an effects loop that at first I was disdainful about. I didn't like it, but then I realized I could plug my guitar straight into the amp and then run my distortion pedals through the effects loop, which not only was aesthetically pleasing to my MC5 kind of photo mentality, but also quite functional. The effects loop actually goes between the preamp tubes and the power tubes, which is a strange way of distorting your amp rather than putting the distortion straight into the front of the amp. It goes in between the tubes of the amp. At least that's my general understanding of it. From the effects loop, it comes back out, goes into my Peterson strobe tuner, which I find to be a very bright tuner, especially when you're playing outside. Then I've got a 1978 Electro Harmonix Deluxe Memory Man, and I use it just for pure noise, like the beginning of That's What Heaven Feels Like, and sometimes when I'm switching guitars, I'll make some noise on it and ring out a note while I'm handing things off. And then the main part of my pedal setup, which is just 2 rat pedals. I use 2 rat pedals, and that's pretty much all I've ever used. I keep 1 rat at a lower volume. Generally speaking, it's around 2/3 of the way up in terms of volume. I keep the filter just before noon, and I keep the distortion just before noon as well. And then it goes into a second rat pedal that I only engage for boosts, and that's for choruses, and when I have a little bit of ripping, I'll usually step on that. That's it. I step on the second one so that there's 2 rats in a line, 2 kind of distortion pedals cascading into each other, going back into the amp, out of the speakers, and into your ears. So I'll just do a quick breakdown of how everything works. So as I said, I use my volume knob quite a bit from kind of cleaner sounds, as clean as we get. Turn it up, baby! And And then from there I go to my Memory Man. And then when I want to get really nasty, I hit my second rat pedal. As you can hear, it has quite a bit of extraneous noise, which I happen to love. But you've got to be vigilant with your foot to kind of turn it off when you don't want that. So that's basically the extent of my setup. Generally speaking, Les Paul custom guitar into a Marshall Super Lead amplifier, into a Peterson tuner, Electro Harmonix Memory Man, Deluxe Memory Man rather, and then 2 stock big box Rats. I just like the big ones because they're easier to stomp on. And then back into the Super Lead amplifier and into some big loud cab, and you're off to the races, my friend.